you. All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure getting to meet a lot of you in the hallways and in here and elsewhere, and seeing some familiar faces has been really great. Welcome to day 2. As mentioned, I'm Andrew Horn, the Sustainability Operations Manager for Walgreens, and I sit within the Global Brands team. I'm here to share with you our journey that we've been on in sustainability here at Walgreens. But first, to do that, I want to explain Walgreens' journey. I need to share WBA's approach to environmental, social, and governance. And the clever of you in the audience will have noticed that the format of the slides have already changed a little bit. And that's because Walgreens is actually WBA, Walgreens Boots Alliance. And the majority of you in the room, I'm sure, recognize Walgreens as that nationwide chain of pharmacies. You'll hopefully recognize our own brands, like that of Walgreens, the brand itself, Well Beginnings, Finest Nutrition, Nice. These offerings also complement, of course, the national brands. Our own brands offerings are at a value play, national brand equivalency, and in many times better than national brand. But I also need to talk about the B in WBA. And that is, of course, Boots. There's a couple of UK folks in the room. Hey, over there. Trevor, you're over there, yeah. I know you'll recognize Boots as being the largest pharmaceutical retailer in the UK. Within the UK business is also the No. 7 beauty company, and they have iconic brands and lines such as No. 7, Liz Earle, Soap & Glory, Botanics, as well as Sleek. Now, really interesting, No. 7 products can be purchased here in our domestic Walgreens stores, but you'll also find those products in stores like Target and Walmart. Might not have really thought of Walgreens WBA having products in the retailers as well. Between our two retail pharmacy companies, our objective is meeting customers' needs through dispensing medicines, improving access to a wide range of health services, improving high-quality health and beauty products at offerings anytime, and providing anywhere convenience across our stores and through our digital platform. Quick overview, as mentioned, WBA trades on the NASDAQ as said such. We're an integrated healthcare, pharmacy, and retail leader. We serve millions of customers and patients every single day with 170 years of heritage. That 170 is leaning a bit on the Boots. They were founded in 1898. But Walgreens isn't all that young either, being founded in 1901. Quick math, adding those two up, just under 300 combined years of serving communities. So, been around the block a little bit. And a quick overview, because we're not just Boots in the UK market and Walgreens here in the US, but we're present in 9 countries with 325,000 employees. We are one of the world's largest purchasers of prescription drugs and many other health well-being products. We're the largest retail pharmacy, health and daily living destination across the US and Europe. We're ranked 27th on the Fortune 500 rankings of largest US corporations by total revenue. And as mentioned, we're traded publicly. WBA has approximately 13,000 locations across the US, Europe, and Latin America. Walgreens themselves have over 8,000 locations, and this is probably my favorite stat, but 78% of the US population lives within 5 miles of a Duane Reade or Walgreens pharmacy. In 2022, we filled over 800 million prescriptions, and across the US, we have more than 85,000 healthcare service providers, including pharmacists, pharm techs, nurses, nurse practitioners, and other healthcare and health-related professionals. Within Walgreens, our expanding omni-channel capabilities provide customers with convenient access across all 50 states, including Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands. Walgreens' loyalty program has approximately 100 million active members as of August of last year. And our Walgreens mobile app allows customers to refill prescriptions through scan technology, order retail products, receive medication refill notifications, and then choose for in-store, at-home, or curbside pickup. We're focused on creating neighborhood health destinations within our stores and a more modern pharmacy aligned to providing a wide range of health services. We've taken steps further to develop these neighborhood health destinations, working with our strategic partners such as VillageMD to provide an integrated primary care and pharmacy model that aims to drive better health outcomes, reduce costs, and provide differentiated patient experience. We also expect to continue to play a growing role in government and employer efforts to control escalating healthcare costs. All right, so to ground our ESG strategy, we have to take a look here at our purpose, vision, and values. And our purpose is to create more joyful lives through better health. And we're enabled to execute our purpose by our vision, which is which is to leading partners to reimagine local healthcare and well-being for all. And we support the business and we support each other through our values, being courageous, connected, committed, and curious. And I'll pick up back on these a couple times, especially when I talk about my sustainability plan and what that means to us and our employees. To connect our purpose to more joyful lives through better health within our ESG strategy, we have 4 pillars, and these 4 pillars shape our commitments. Within healthy communities, improving social health and well-being through access to affordable, quality healthcare, building and maintaining long-lasting partnerships and investments in our communities with a focus on cancer care, research, youth empowerment, and hygiene poverty. Within health and inclusive workplace, that means treating our employees with dignity and respect. We do this by cultivating positive work environments that reflect the diverse and perspective backgrounds of the different cultures and communities in which we live and work, and ensuring health and safe work environments for all of our employees. In Healthy Planet, that to us means reducing environmental impacts in our business, and we do this through ensuring efficient use of energy in our operations and within the stores, while working to transition our business to renewable, low-carbon energy sources. Reducing the negative impacts of plastics and waste in our operations, and seeking for increasing opportunities to increase recycling, reuse, recycled content, and enabling circularity systems. Within Sustainable Marketplace, that to us means managing the life cycles of our own brand's product, increase traceability, transparency into our supply chains, and addressing environmental and social impacts with our suppliers. What would a deck be without, touting some of the positive things we've done in the past year? We'll take a look at 2022. And in right to left order, following the pillars, I want to rattle off a couple of my favorite here. But in 2022, we, WBA, administered over 36 million COVID vaccinations and boosters. We donated $25 million to the Susan G. Komen Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. WBA increased women in leadership by 3 percentage points year over year. Walgreens increased people of color in leadership by 2 percentage points year over year. And we increased in Walgreens year 1 diverse spend to $625. Boots has now transitioned to 100% plastic-free online order delivery. That's that packaging dunnage and that packaging that comes and is shipped to your house. Walgreens has reduced absolute Scope 1 and 2 carbon emissions by 30% as compared to baseline 2019. That's pretty big for Scope 1 and 2. And we've expanded the number of own brand products made from recycled content that are recyclable or that use natural materials. And we're moving more and more of our own brand products to physically certified sources of palm. We're really pleased that WBA as a whole entity now is part of the RSPO. Again, I'm not trying to drain everything we've accomplished, but just some of the highlights that we've had in the past year. But with so many completing interests and activities and what the business is trying to tackle, how do we prioritize our strategies? And so if you all aren't familiar with doing some sort of materiality assessment, I strongly encourage you guys to look into this. And we use a third party to help us execute this. I don't think it's a foreign concept to many. But our last materiality assessment was actually done in 2021. Little peek behind the curtain, we're looking at updating our materiality assessment. Hopefully that'll come out in our next ESG report or maybe in the one after that. But it's been a really interesting journey to go on yet again. And what this materiality assessment is where we systematically survey a range of global stakeholders. And to us, that means business leaders, internal SMEs, external suppliers, NGOs, stockholders, of course, the academics of the world, and most importantly, our customers. I think in Walgreens, there's something like 300 33,000 of our loyalty customers were surveyed, but each of our businesses in each of the geographies they play in also had a bucket of their customers that were incorporated into that materiality assessment. What we do to this is to understand our key and emerging issues over the next decade that will potentially impact WBA, as well as how those impacts might affect these stakeholders' interaction with our company. Through this exercise, we gauge how our operations might be affected by changing context of public health, racial equity issues, impacts on human rights, and of course, rising concerns about climate change. Combining the results of all of the stakeholders in all the global markets, we prioritized 32 issues, of which 24 are categorized as high and very high. It's a lot of things to try to tackle. All are really important, but what I've done here is highlight four that are important to me, as we'll get into here in a second, but those four mostly sit within the sustainable marketplace. And that was the one when I was rattling off, has to do a lot with own brands. All right, as mentioned, within those 4 pillars, own brands objectives all fall within the sustainable marketplace pillar. That's me over on the far left there. Addressing environmental and social impacts and opportunities by increasing traceability, transparency, and diversity across our suppliers and within our supply chains. Bear with me, sorry, I jumped one layer deeper into that strategy, but that's how I try to summarize then what objectives we need, what sorts of tools, as well as programs we need to accomplish these missions. By all means, this is not an all-encompassing list of every tool and program we have going on, but with the short time given and the audience in the room and what I know you guys are going to be keen to hearing more about, I wanted to provide a couple of tools and insights into how we're managing some of this. I want to first talk about the WBA Supplier Sustainability Program, THESIS. So THESIS is a performance assessment system that equips retailers and suppliers to benchmark, quantify on critical sustainability issues within the global consumer product supply chain. THESIS was developed by the Sustainability Consortium. Suppliers participating in the system can share results and assessments with multiple retailers on one license. And this is really important to us. I know we were talking about this in the other room there, Paul, but the survey fatigue is real. I think with our suppliers, we all know it. We all have our own systems and things like that. So as many opportunities as there are to share tools and share insights as possible, we're looking for. We want to be a partner with our suppliers. This isn't a one-way street. Through the system's category-specific assessments that are completed by our key strategic suppliers, we're provided with the most pressing ESG information on the supplier's potential risks, opportunities, or leadership in specific product categories. Armed with this data, we can informatively understand our risks in our products and our supply chain to pinpoint sustainability hotspots to work with our own brand suppliers, because their risks are our risks. Using the THESIS Year 1 data, in addition to that sustainability materiality assessment we were just looking at, I've taken the liberty with the WBA team to pinpoint a couple of areas that are our hottest of hotspots. And I'm not going to belabor the points too much here, but we're really looking at plastics as being a top priority for our business to get a handle on, as well as greenhouse gas emissions. And not to belabor the greenhouse gas emissions point, but I heard a little bit about this yesterday from Whole Foods too, but from our suppliers, especially when we're talking about scope 3, they just don't have the data. If our suppliers are unable to gather the data on their scope 3 emissions, we're unable to report on our scope 3 emissions. This is hindering their ability to set targets for themselves. That's hindering our ability to set targets of scope 3 for ourselves. To try to address some of that, we've actually created another tool that kind of rides on the back of the THESIS program, and it's specific to our suppliers, and we cascaded it out to some of those strategic suppliers that in year 1 we're saying, I'm unable to answer questions about greenhouse gas emissions. And this tool is meant to be cascaded to them, to each of the different businesses within their organization that they work with to gather that data, and then it can also be cascaded down within their supply chains to their tier 2, we call it, or maybe then their tier 1, 3, 4 suppliers to try to bring some of that information together. While this might not be the end-all, be-all solution, we just got to get suppliers and their suppliers on this journey to start thinking about carbon emissions. The information's out there. It just has to be dug up, consolidated. We gotta get suppliers and their suppliers thinking about it. We're currently in our 3rd year of the program. The 3rd year campaign's launched actually the beginning of this month. We're about 30 days in now. But in year 2 versus year 1, we did see quite a bit of progress at a supplier level. This signals to us that suppliers were finding benefits within the thesis system based on the suggestions that the program is using to pinpoint those hotspots and the suggestions for improvement. We had 120 Tier 1 key suppliers participating in the program. And interestingly, our most submitted assessment category type was facial skincare. But there's other categories, there's hundreds of them actually. We had 117 unique categories submitted to us, but it'll be for things like a beverage supplier has a unique set of questions than a plush toy supplier has, than a vitamin or a supplement supplier has. There might be some crossover in the questions, like the greenhouse gas sort of questions will cross over between all the assessments. But for the OTC supplier, their questions may have to do with does your business have a chemicals action list or a RSL? That same question might not be so applicable to that plush supplier of teddy bears, but they might have questions about cotton sourcing practices. That's obviously not going to be applicable to the OTC supplier. They're curated to about 15 to 20 questions, really honing in on those really specific attributes in the ESG world that I, myself, and a really small team of us in WBA just don't have the expertise to know what questions to ask for every product category that we supply. Again, it's really valuable that we use this information also in conjunction with our sourcing team to make sure that we're giving our sourcing team the information on who's on this journey with us, especially for those strategic suppliers we have partnering in this, and showing year-over-year improvement. We don't explicitly make decisions based on a supplier being a top-tier performer, but just the fact that they want to be on this journey with us definitely bolsters our feelings about that supplier in our programs. The next program I want to talk about is probably, personally, my favorite, and not to play favorites here, but it's our Walgreens WBA Sustainability Hub. This is another key area of focus for us, as the Sustainability Hubs acts as a specification system for all own brands sustainability topics that we need item-level specific data on. All WBA items require 2 submission forms per item submitted by our supplier. The first submission form pertains to product questions. Those questions may be pertaining to things like palm oil, wood paper pulp, animal testing, material provenance, and there's many more questions. The second form pertains to packaging, and that would be questions at a component level of the component type, material, weight, recycled content, and there's a couple more questions in there, and again, that's every item, every single component. It's a web-based system that was developed specifically by the WBA sustainability team to meet our needs of data capture. This information is pivotal in ensuring we understand our items, our suppliers, and we can then use this data for internal and external reporting. The Sustainability Hub also hosts a bit of communications for us. We use the system to host things like our sustainability requirements and some forward-looking positions. The hub also redirects suppliers to things like our chemicals actions policy, as well as our chemical actions list. It's so important that we get suppliers using the Sustainability Hub and get that information, especially as more legislation is coming down on things like PCR and EPR. We're leveraging the information that we're collecting in the Sustainability Hub to be able to do reporting for those. The homegrown fact that we develop something that works for us doesn't mean you as a retailer or supplier need to homegrown your own system. There's plenty of other systems out there you can buy off the shelf. Looking at some of you guys in the audience that I know have competing systems to ours. But point is, all these retailers, if you don't have a system like this, you need to be setting this up. And there's a lot of great options out there, but I personally want to think, how can we do this smarter? Because there is just so much data, and how can we come together to ask questions in similar ways to not fatigue those suppliers? Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to really collect the same data from our suppliers. And in the US, with own brands retail, it is a lot of a buy model. There's not too much uniqueness between our bottle of ibuprofen versus one of our retail competitors, not to name names on the shelf. they're typically coming from the same groups of manufacturers, and they're in the same bottles, and they're in the same packaging roughly, but slapped on with some different graphics. The last piece that's really important to us is around empowering everyone with internal engagement. In WBA Global Sourcing, we have a vision for everyone globally in the quality and sourcing roles to have individual MSPs, and this is really unique to us, but MSPs are My Sustainability Plans. These are backed by leadership support, and it is an important program that we use to engage with our teams to jointly build their support and commitment to enhancing our sourcing model. The My Sustainability Plan framework ensures that we're embedding sustainability across our business, and everyone in their unique positions has identified objectives within their roles to support the ESG strategy. We do this through a couple of different buckets here, and that's simple everyday changes, and that really is simple everyday changes. At the end of the day, are you just thinking to yourself, could I turn off my computer? Did I need to print that piece of paper? Really simple things, just to get the ball rolling, get the juices flowing, get you thinking about little ways that you can be more sustainable in your day-to-day. And we know that little actions carry over. Now, where the rubber really meets the road is in supporting the sourcing strategy. And that's where we're working with teams to embed things like the Sustainability Hub into our NPD process, making sure that we're communicating to our suppliers our 2030 plastics packaging commitments, which are very similar to everyone else's. Our deadline for ourselves is 2030, as well as getting curious. And that's back to that vision and purpose that I was sharing earlier, but around continuing to educate yourselves, explore. I know when I get back from this conference, I'll share with my folks and my team in my next hall and my next town hall some of the learnings that I've had here. The MSP keeps everyone accountable to ensuring Walgreens is making progress on our ESG ambitions. Each manager, line manager, is responsible for their team members and ensuring that they have a strategy in place under their MSP objective for the year. And the last program I want to talk about today is around our diverse supplier base. WBA set a target and met the target to spend $625 million with diverse Tier 1 suppliers in fiscal 22. That was an increase of $125 million compared to year prior. To promote accountability, we've tied this program's goals to the bonus structure. This encourages team members and leaderships with purchase to consider diverse and small business opportunities. And importantly, outside of the US, we're expanding our diverse supplier program. In this past year, we launched a diverse supplier program within the Boots UK business. Working with business leaders, our diverse supplier program aims to ensure we're providing equitable opportunities in sourcing goods and services from enterprising business owners owned by women, people of color, veterans, and service-disabled veterans, people with disabilities, LGBTQ+ people, and those who are socially or economically disadvantaged. In fiscal 2022, Walgreens supported more than 450 diverse suppliers. We're really proud of that. We're working on setting new targets for this coming fiscal year, and those will be finalized and hopefully communicated in our newest ESG report. My last slide here, I get to go off script a little bit, but I promise I put this together before showing up. But it really ties back to so much of what we've heard yesterday and what I assume we're going to continue to hear about today. And that has to do with data and support. And I'm sitting on boatloads, mountains, mounds, whatever you want to call it, of data. But I'm a sustainability person. I'm not a data analyst. So I've had to work within my business to find support to understand all this data that we're now sitting on. And it really is a challenge. I encourage you to find it within your business, to build that support system that you need, to create that analytics, to create that reporting. It's great to have the data, but what does it mean if you can't report on it? You can't reflect on how well you're doing, what direction you need to go. For target setting, everything else is so reliant on all this data that we've now done a fantastic job of collecting, but a lot of us probably don't have the expertise to really start to use it. It's really important that if you don't have a strategy around the data that you're collecting now, you start developing that. At least that's remained a mission and true to me. Thank you, everyone. I'd love to see you guys in the hall and answer some questions out there and talk to you about whatever it is you so choose, but it's been great to meet you all, and thank you for the time.